Hi, and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the guys at the Guitar Show UK. I am sat with, I would be sat with my fellow host, but actually, for this evening, for one night only, Jason Hunt is actually technically the guest.
Okay, we'll do it that way. Yes,
So good evening, guest Jason. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. Should we explain why that is the case?
Yeah. So the guest this week was supposed to be Joel McIver, who's a friend of mine. You may have read one of Joel's books. He's written, hundreds of them. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Wikipedia list that he sent over. They're predominantly...
Has he just got a lot of furniture that's all wobbly and he needs a different one of his own tomes just to keep things level? It's like, fuck, the sideboard's on a tilt. It's on a tilt again. I better write a book.
Honestly, it's ridiculous the amount of books he's written. The vast majority of them tend to be about Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, that sort of end of the sort of like metal spectrum. Lots of books on sort of like death metal. What I wanted to talk to him about was the 100 Greatest Metal Guitarist book that he did. But I think for me the interesting book is that his latest book is a book it's an autobiography or co-write with John Mayall from the Blues Breakers. Actually,
that's quite timely, isn't it?
Why? Has he died?
Oh no, he hasn't. I'm thinking of the other one. Who's the other blues fella who's just died? Is it one of those blues guys has died, hasn't he? Who had a band named after him? Oh shit, we have to Google it now, aren't we?
Yeah, you go ahead and Google it. I'll explain that.
Set us down upon a path. You explain about Joel.
Yeah, so Joel was going to do it, and I got a message this morning at 5:58 that said, "I'm really sorry, I'm very ill. I don't think I can do it." I spoke to him this morning at a far more reasonable time of about 11 o'clock, and he's sent off for a COVID test. He's currently in bed, not feeling very well at all, but well enough to send me a WhatsApp video of him calling me a twat whilst in his bed.
Oh, you don't need that, do you? Does that mean we've got free reign to give him a little bit of grief then?
I've told him that
right.
You need to download this episode on Monday because we're just going to slag him off.
Okay. Well, I'm now looking at celebrities who've died in 2020. Yeah, I know Peter Green's died this year, but there's another one. And I'm not thinking of... was it Spencer Davis I was thinking of?
Spencer Davis did die a couple of weeks ago.
He's died recently, hasn't he? But I'm sure there's another one.
When I started work at the NEC, I got trained by various people. So I was quite young. I was in my 20s. And everybody else had been there since the NEC opened in 1976 or something. So they were much older than me. And Sandra, bless her, she'd gone to school with Spencer Davis.
Okay. Bet he had some stories.
Yeah, Sandra was fascinating. She'd also toured around the UK following the Beatles. And still to this very day has John Lennon's crisp packet.
Right. They must be soft by now.
No, it was an empty crisp packet.
Okay. Well, that's not very generous, is it? If he only gave her an empty crisp packet.
I don't think he gave it that. I think it was
she nicked it?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, I'm assuming he was famous at the time, otherwise that makes it weird.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when she used to sort of like follow the Beatles around, we were talking the very start of their career.
Right.
So they were famous, but they weren't the Beatles.
Right, okay. So hang on. Were they famous and not the Beatles, i.e. were they the Quarrymen, or were they famous and they were the Beatles, but they weren't the Beatles?
They were the Beatles, but they weren't the Beatles.
Right.
The madness of Beatlemania. This was prior to that. So she was seeing them at nightclubs in Birmingham and stuff like that when they were playing to 100 people.
Right. Wow. There was approximately 100 people saw me paying in a working men's club, in Grimethorpe.
Yeah, but you're not John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison. You're not even Ringo Starr, mate.
Well, the other thing is, I don't remember having any crisps. So it wouldn't have worked, would it? I think it must have been Spencer Davis as being the one that because that was fairly recently. Though, interestingly, and we're going back to the East Yorkshire Shadows Club, Brian Lockin died fairly recently. Brian Licorice Lockin, who was the Shadows guitarist, who I think was one of the bass players that was at that event that I was at. So he must be one of the bass players that didn't die in the rift of baseball. They didn't die, did they? Just got through a load of them. Anyway, so Joel's in bed. He's written countless books. Nobody really knows why, because they all appear to be the same, just with different names in them.
We'll ask him next week,
right? Because nobody's reading.
I should say as well, if you're listening to this podcast, Joel did my second favourite podcast of all time, which was called Dead Rock Stars.
Yes, it's an excellent podcast.
It's an incredible podcast.
It really is very, very good.
Because dead men can't sue, I think was the tagline. I only actually did one season of it. Did it with Mick Wall, who used to be sort of like the writer for Kerrang, obviously named in the Guns N' Roses song. Was it Get in the Ring? Just brilliant tales from sort of like the rock world in the 70s and 80s, really. So I strongly recommend that anybody downloads Dead Rock Stars.
Yeah, and that was number 2 in your list.
Yeah, well, my favourite podcast of all time isn't properly a podcast, really. It's just a radio show that gets put onto, podcast platforms, and it's Fight and Talk off Radio 5.
I do like Fighting Talk. I think it's a class show, if I'm being honest. I really like Dead Ringers as well, actually.
I don't know Dead Ringers.
Dead Ringers, which is, yes. Dead Ringers is kind of the grown-up, not the grown-up, but it's got a bit of the Spitting Image thing, in terms of it's very political. But I think it hits the mark more than Spitting Image does, because I don't think the new Spitting Image has hit the mark quite like the old one.
I think I got the 2 favourite bits from the old Spitting Image was the one bit where, it must have been like Michael Hurd, Michael Heseltine, that, and what's his name, Lawson.
Nigel
Lawson. All in a gent's toilet.
Jeffrey Hurd as well.
Yeah.
Michael Hurd's.
Yeah, Jeffrey Hurd. And they're all in the gents at urinals. And Thatcher walks in and uses a urinal and then walks out.
I did love the fact that they used to do him up as... I've forgotten his blooming name now. Norman Tebbit, and they used to do him in the Nazi thing. And
he got a scar down his face as well.
Yeah, they used to do him in that proper SS type. As it was Goebbels, wasn't it? They did him as Goebbels. Yeah. But,
and the other one, of course, was when they did that Police song, Every Breath You Take, and it was like a really sad and poignant thing, which they used to do sad and poignant.
Yeah, they did. They actually did poignant very well. They did poignant very well. I agree with you there. Anyway, we're going miles off topic, aren't we?
Yeah.
So Joel can't be with us. Best wishes, Joel. We hope you get well soon, and we're hoping maybe we'll do that one next week. That's the hope.
I'm hoping so. Yeah.
Provided he's not got COVID proper.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, I'm hoping he has got it, simply because it would be a justifiable excuse for letting us down. He's the first person who's actually let us down in 22 episodes. So part of me thinks, well, COVID would be a reasonable excuse. Anything else is just a cold.
He did say he felt crap. He got a bit of a cough and he couldn't really taste anything. So,
that might be. Has he been to any super spreader events?
No, the bizarre thing is that we used to, I would say, we didn't lecture together. We used to lecture at the same place. And Joel stopped lecturing for this new sort of academic year to concentrate on writing even more books.
Well, he's got about 9 on the go at the moment. It must be like Barbara Cartland. Did he lay on a chaise long with some kind of
heavy metal's Barbara Cartland,
some form of dark Winciette?
But I've been lecturing all term so far, so I've actually been in front of the super spreaders,
right? Yeah, and he hasn't
every Thursday, and he hasn't, and I'm touch wood.
That will literally learn him. It really will. So yeah. Anyway, we hope you get well soon, Joel. We hope we can speak to you next week. This is kind of chapter 22, or we've got a few things to talk about, so it will make into an episode. We apologise before we even start for the fact that it will be a little loose and it will be a little bit all over the place. Apologies in advance for that. It might while away half an hour. We're working on the assumption. We talked about whether we could get away with this tonight, and we're working on the assumption that we can, because you're in lockdown and you literally have got fuck all else to do, and because they will have finished counting the votes fairly shortly, so that won't dominate your life as much as it's dominating my life at the moment, because I'm just watching CNN literally for 12 hours a day at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I stayed up till sort of like 1 a.m. whenever the day was. 2 days ago, is it now?
Yes, it was into Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I stayed up till 1 a.m. and they were neck and neck when I went to bed, and then I woke up 5 hours later.
Can you be neck and neck with Trump? I've never seen his neck.
And they were neck and neck in the morning.
Right.
It's weird, isn't it? I mean, in some ways it's got bugger all to do with us, and in other ways it's got everything to do with us.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't particularly like the man, but he still managed to garner, nearly 70 million votes, so it's not like a flash in the pan. And having been, I went to the States 3 times last year, and I'm going to say here, I'm just about to say something you can probably agree with, because I've been to the States quite a lot, you've been quite a lot. I've never seen 70 million people wandering around in white sheets with white pointy hats. No, and
how have I missed them? It's a bit like goths in Leeds when the Sisters of Mercy play. Where did they go?
Well, the interesting thing is when you look at the map of the US. I mean, I went to Los Angeles in the January for the NAMM show.
Yeah.
In the March, I went to New York to see Kiss at Madison Square Garden with my mate. And then in the July, I went to Nashville for the NAMM show. So I'd done East Coast, West Coast, and they're very anti-Trump.
Yeah, they're very blue.
They're very, very blue. But then I went to Nashville. And then you realise that actually the East Coast and the West Coast is blue, but the middle bit...
It's all red.
...is all red, and the middle bit is massive. And I wouldn't comment on anybody's leaders, and I'm not particularly impressed with ours. But it was just, in New York and in Los Angeles, I hadn't seen a MAGA hat or anything, but in Nashville, all that stuff was everywhere.
Yeah.
I did say to the students today, we were talking about their assessments that are due at the end of this semester, and they're first year students I'm teaching, and it's a big leap up from sixth form to university. And I was talking about how to construct an essay and so on. And I think the thing that I tried to ram home to them this morning, and the thing that I think is missing sometimes when we get bits of news, is context. The BBC or whoever will pick up on some tweets, and it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know, I find most of them quite offensive, but I'm not aware of the context in which they're given. I don't live there. I don't know what the news is day in, day out. So I think some of that is lost in translation, possibly.
Do you know what? I would absolutely agree. And I think we do have to I think the other problem is it's too easy in 2020 to only filter opinions that you want to hear. And then get very annoyed about anything that isn't what you've pre-aggregated for yourself. So you aggregate your social media to only be things that you agree with. And then you vociferously, retweet or like or what have you, the things that you agree with, and then get angry about the things that people post that they want you to get angry about. And I think we're not very good at actually collating the context or the thing to give us a balanced opinion. And we're certainly not very good, and absolutely includes me, not very good at asking a calm question and listening to the entire response. The thing that doesn't help that is when you get a man say they're stealing the election when all they're doing is counting votes.
Oh, well, I'm fully aware that some of his tweets are utterly bonkers.
Yeah, and that's the bit that doesn't help, because at the end of the day, and what's interesting in the US at the moment, there seems to be this thing where everybody, the vast majority of people, irrespective of what side of the political divide they're on, seem to want to see democracy as the thing that it should be, which is something that's unfettered and works properly and is conducted properly, and that every legitimate vote placed should be counted. The whole process should be beyond reproach. It should be that sounds kind of crazy, it should be a non-political process. Because democracy isn't political. We politicise arguments, we politicise positions, but democracy is apolitical. It's a very simple thing of each person gets one go.
Yeah.
And we count them all. And they're all of equal value.
Well,
and that does seem to be playing out.
I'm stealing this because someone posted this on Facebook the other day, because Biden had said count every vote, and my mate Martin had said he's missed a trick there. It should have been count every vote, because every vote counts.
Anyway, we'll move on from that, but that has been dominating the week a little bit. So, no Joel.
No Joel.
Distraction of the election will clear in the next couple of days, because it just will. It'll be done by the weekend, whatever happens. Even I know there'll be legal challenges, but the chances are it probably won't change anything. What we get will probably be what we get. And obviously lockdown part 2.
Lockdown harder.
Is that what we're going with? Lockdown 2. Lockdown harder.
Yeah. And we should follow the Die Hard.
The Die Hard
plan.
Lockdown with a vengeance.
Yeah.
What was 4?
Oh,
a bad day to lock down.
Yeah.
Anyway, so carry on lockdown.
Yeah.
Carry on lockdown is what we've got. And I wanted to talk to you about that, because I've got a plan, because people have said, a couple of people have said to me, I'm not looking forward to lockdown 2. It's going to be harder than lockdown 1. And I actually disagree. I think lockdown 2 is going to be easier than lockdown 1. And I will give you my reasons why I think it's going to be easier. I accept the fact that we're all sick and tired of it. And I can see the reasons why, because it's horrible outside and this. It'll be right. Okay, here's my reason. Here's my way through lockdown 2 for any of you. 2020 is the year of the Christmas card. Okay?
Okay.
We need to re-embrace Christmas cards. Now, I will be the first person to say that, things like birthday cards are ridiculously expensive, what they are. 2 or 3 quid for a birthday card. Another quid to send it. Quite expensive for what they are. Christmas cards, far more cost effective to buy. Postage, yes, but they're far more cost effective to buy. And a lot of them go locally, so you could even deliver them by hand as part of your lockdown exercise. The reason why I'm saying we need to embrace Christmas cards, what we need to do is every evening in November, while we're on lockdown, write 2 or 3 Christmas cards. Divide the number you're going to send by the number of nights and say, right, I'm going to write this many, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is an evening, depending on how many you send. But I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write an individual message in each one, because if I do that and I send that, that is going to bring a smile and is going to brighten up the day of the person who receives it. So I have got within my orbit the ability to cheer up 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 people, whatever it might be. And if ever there was a year to do it, it's this year, particularly because you can touch people who might not be getting out to speak to anybody else. Now, I know it all sounds a bit wanky. I get that. I know we're hard-ass guitarists. We should be interviewing a man who spends his life with Slayer or Slasher or Thrasher or any number of the reindeer. I don't know why he's doing reindeer, but anyway. So we should be. I know that's what we should be doing tonight. But I'm going to say to all you hard-ass guitarists out there, it's year of the Christmas card. That'll get you through lockdown. Just nip down to the supermarket, buy yourself a couple of multi-packs, get your pen out, glass of beer, glass of wine, whatever your preferred tipple, don't care. Sit, write 2 or 3 a night, individual messages in each one. Send them. You will be brightening up the lives of the lives of the people that you know and in your life. That is how we all get through lockdown too.
That's very nice. I quite like writing. something I discovered a couple of years ago.
How much do you think Joel would write? Jesus,
I know. But it would all be. If you scroll back 1.5 million years, and I was an 18-year-old fresh-faced kid starting my first proper job, I was taken. I didn't realise at the time, but there was a bloke who worked in the accounts department that really kind of looked after me. And I mean, this is pre-Spotify and all of that sort of stuff, So your music knowledge is very, very limited to what you can afford to buy.
Yeah.
And John, who worked in accounts, and I look back now, and Johnny was probably younger than I am today, but he seemed really old because I was 18, and. I can remember once, blathering on about Guns N' Roses to him, and him going off and listening to some Guns N' Roses and coming back and going, "Oh, it just kind of reminds me of reminds me of Hendrix." Now, I don't think he particularly does, but to someone who doesn't play guitar, it's a black guy with long curly hair, So, and bless him, he did me this cassette that I still have, which is a Chuck Berry song played by Chuck Berry, so Johnny Be Good, for instance, and then Hendrix doing a cover of it, and then the Chuck Berry song played by Chuck Berry, I don't know, Little Queenie or something, and then Hendrix covering it, and he did me a C90 cassette of that. So, and he was, have you heard the Doors? Have you heard the Rolling Stones? Have you heard the Beatles? And these cassettes would just flow into me every week. And it was just a brilliant way of expanding sort of my music knowledge when I was 18. And sort of I ended up leaving there and going to work for the NEC, sort of running events. And we kind of kept in touch for a bit. And then he retired and he moved down to Kent. And then 2 or 3 years ago, Christmas card arrived, and then he wrote me a letter, and so the first time I responded to the letter, I typed it because that's my world, right? Yeah. You just type a letter and drops it in the post, and then another handwritten letter came, and I thought I should handwrite these, so I ended up having to go and buy a pen. A nice pen so I could write, and now we correspond because he doesn't do, the bloke's nearly 80 or something. He doesn't do email or anything like that, Facebook or anything. So we correspond these days by letter. And
maybe he does do email. Maybe he just hit a point in his life where he realised he's got 3 packs of Basildon Bond and he doesn't know how much longer he's got left.
Quite possibly.
I'm going to get through these.
It's not though, because I've got his latest letter that arrived last week here that I'm going to respond to tomorrow. So it's just on regular paper.
Regular paper, yeah. I think that's really nice.
It is really nice, and the last couple of letters ago, I wrote and told him just how influential he'd been in sort of expanding my music taste.
Well, you can tell him he's made it into the podcast.
I will. He won't listen to it because he hasn't got a computer, I don't think. So
you ought to send him it on a C90 cassette.
He'd probably like that.
Yeah.
If only I got the ability to put it onto a C90 cassette.
Do you know what? I've got a cassette player in upstairs in the loft. I can get this onto C90. I think I can get it on C90 cassette for you.
All right, thank you. Brilliant.
We can send it to him. I haven't got a cassette, but
I'm sure you could get one off eBay.
I'll solve that issue. But I do have a C90 cassette, so I think I can do it. I don't actually know how I'm going to do it. I do it. Just it's easy. Just take an output. Yeah, I can do it. I can do that. Of course, I can. Right, we'll do this. Put it on. Fine, John. This is for you. If you're hearing this, I've managed it. If you're not hearing it, well, you don't know what you missed, do you? Really? So, of the things we said we'd talk about, brief, and you know what? We said this is, we'll just do 20 minutes, and it'll be fine. We'll have something to put out. We've already been on 20 minutes. We haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
Bloody votes, counts, finished and everything. First thing we need to say, Guitar Show 2021.
Yeah.
You have an update, don't you?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever been quite so work depressed in my life, really. I had, I don't know if I told you, but a couple of weeks ago, I had 2 phone calls. It was like a Thursday afternoon or something. I had 2 phone calls back to back. And the first one was off a friend of a friend, really, Ralph. And he just phoned me up. I was driving home, I was listening to the news, and I thought, I'll give Jason a call. He just phoned me up and went, "You all right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine, blah blah blah." And then I put the phone down, and then literally the next call that came through was from Raj, who owns Fair Deal Music, one of the show's sponsors.
Yeah.
And he was, "I've just driven past Bingley Hall. Are you all right?" And I went from like really sort of like feeling quite good that these people care and they phoned me, to being utterly depressed within about 30 minutes. And I think at that point it kind of dawned on me that I'm not doing a show next year.
No.
And it just kind of broke me a little bit. This has been my life for many years now. I've never had to cancel a show, ever. You know, I've never run a show in 25 years that hasn't made a profit. You know, they've always been, to a greater or lesser extent, you know, profitable shows. And it's part of my, I don't know, it's part of me. This is what I do. You know, I've got plectrums scattered around the place, because one of my exhibitors for Music Live used to call me Mr. Show. It's in the Simpsons episode where he's Mr. Plough.
No.
Oh, yeah, so Homer gets a snow plough and he becomes Mr. Plough and does adverts or something. And like Keith from Indie Guitars thought it was hysterical and used to call me Mr. Show. And then for a long time when I'd be walking around Frankfurt Music Fair or NAMM or whatever, it was like, Mr. Show! And it was kind of like, that was, you know, it was funny. And you know, that was part of my persona. And then it became increasingly obvious that I wasn't going to be able to do a show in February. And I'd always had in the back of my mind that I'd push it from February to May, June time. And then I've got behind me like a pinboard with gig tickets on it that just keep being postponed.
Yeah.
And last week through the uni, I'd got an agent in to talk to the students, and she was saying that it's like quite a big name agent that looks after Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Madonna. It's not small fry. And she was talking that she's just postponed some gig dates for the 4th time. And I didn't want to do that with the guitar show. I didn't want to go, look, hey, it's going to go ahead, but it's going to be May, June time. And then go, oh, actually, it's not going to be May, June time. It's going to be the autumn. And then I was like, but if I push it, because a couple of friends had said to me, why don't you try and put it on when Music Live used to be on, which is actually would have been this weekend. It was always kind of bonfire night when it was on. And I was like, if I push it to November, I might as well just leave it and do it in February 22. There's only 3 months difference. And then it really hit. I'm not going to do a show in 2021, which is a really quite sad and depressing for me. I mean, it only really affects me.
Well, it doesn't. It affects all the people who would normally, it's one of the weekends in their calendar. So, I think at some point, and you wouldn't think this about yourself, knowing what you are, but it does. It is something that people will look forward to. So it is going to affect a lot of people, because for a lot of people, it is just one of those weekends. You go down, you meet people that you have a good wander about, you pluck a few things, you bang a few things, you jump up and down on a few things, you have some curry and you go home again. And a lot of people will miss that, and they'll miss what's on the stage and all the other things. So I think it is going to affect a lot of people. I think the only thing, if you want to say to me what's the positive or what can you draw from it, you're actually the last show probably, or one of the last people that's had to cancel their event, because everybody's been cancelling events since March. We just got in this year.
Yeah.
because it was those interviews that we were talking about, those the interview with Phil X, all those things referenced COVID. Phil X doesn't finish his tour.
No.
So there's a lot of other people that have had to go through what you're about to go through. So, but you've had an idea, haven't you?
For the actual weekend
Yes.
of the guitar show, yeah. So I kind of wanted to celebrate it in some way, and I've looked.
We haven't all got to stand out the front door and clap, have we?
Yeah. Because
there's no way that's going to be in time,
no, because I'm an event manager by trade. I read all of the sort of like the association event organisers, trade body, newsletters and stuff like that. And I'm signed up to some American ones as well, so I'll get the newsletters through. And it was a really, really interesting report about the sort of like the digital versions of events. There's been a couple of digital sort of guitar shows this year, and I believe that NAMM is attempting to do it in January in some way. And this report said that 68% of exhibitors would never do a virtual show again after doing one, because they didn't feel that the investment and the return and the effort was worthwhile in the end. So, and I don't particularly enjoy them. I watched a fair bit of the Guitar Magazine's sort of virtual show that was in the first week of October, second week of October, something like that. And what I found was that I was instantly drawn to like the Jason Isbell interview, sort of like demoing gear and stuff like that. But the other stuff I didn't watch because I was like, I'm not really interested in that. And that's the difference between a very sort of like passive experience, which is like an online show where you pick and choose what you want. But when you go to an event and you actually physically go to it, you do tend to see everything. I mean, you'll probably, I do it myself when I go to non-guitar events, because when I go to a guitar event, I can't help but kind of do work. But if I went to something for myself, you look at the stuff that you are particularly interested in. So, come to my show, you might kind of like go, I want to see what new Marshall amps look like or whatever. And I particularly want to go and see Crimson guitars or something like that. So you go and do that sort of stuff first. But because you're there, the second sweep of the hall is when you start looking at everything else, which is when you discover, hey, that guy's selling wooden plectrums or whatever, and all of a sudden you've handed over a tenner and got 3 wooden plectrums that you would never consider buying. And I think that's the problem with the virtual online stuff, is that you just do what you want to do. You don't see it all, because it's just you just get in and get out. It's it's like delving into YouTube. You just watch what you want and then you leave, and you miss so much. And I think that the thing that I really love about my show is that mix between, there's Marshall, there's Orange, there's Black Star or whoever, and then you've got, there's Rob Williams, there's Hayden Williams, little guitar builders that actually, once you've seen the big stuff that's available in any PMT or Fair Deal or whatever in the country, it's when you start discovering, I don't know, Tim from Frederick FX and the funky little stuff that he's doing, stuff that you didn't even know you were looking for.
No.
But you look for it, you find it at a show because you're looking at everything, because you're there. And so I don't want to do a virtual show, but I thought it would be really good to kind of celebrate the weekend and at least keep the guitar show there in spirit, if nothing else. So I'm going to speak to all of the exhibitors and ask them if they just want to send me some like demo videos or something, and I'll program them up over that weekend to run. And I'd really like to do a couple of podcasts with exhibitors or artists that have played it, so one on the Saturday and one on the Sunday, and just kind of, have a beer for the guitar show sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's probably we should probably have a curry as well, because it's so traditional. We have a beer and curry and record a couple of podcasts. So that was my plan to kind of, tide me over until 2022, really.
Well, I think we can do better than that, but I don't think we should reveal how we're going to do better than that. I think if we know we've got a weekend and we know we've got the various social platforms at our disposal, and we know some of the people we can get in touch with, I think we can go a little bit beyond that. So I'm going to take the mantle, folks, of keeping Jason's chin up.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of okay. It comes in waves. It's well, I'm not in any way kind of depressed. I mean, I think I'd come to that conclusion in the last week or so, and then I was on a Zoom meeting earlier at uni, and my phone flashed, and it was your update that came through on email about Rishi extending furlough until March, and then you kind of read that and you go, yeah, we ain't out of this in the next 4 weeks.
No, I saw that and thought straight away that do you know what? There's nothing in the live world. There's no music, no nothing. I don't think until the earliest May or June of next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I still know people at the NEC, and I was interviewing part of the students' course this year is that kind of every other week I'm bringing in a guest, which is so easy on Zoom because previously it was like, hey, do you want to come to Birmingham for?
Who was it this week?
So this week it was my mate Roy, who owns the Asylum venue in Birmingham. So this week we were talking about venues. But Roy's a really fascinating character because not only does he own we own a rehearsal room, which I will honestly say is the best rehearsal room in Birmingham. He owns the Asylum and Asylum 2 venues. I think one's got a cap of about 600, the other one about 150. So they're really good for bands that are kind of starting out. He also owns a publishing company, a management company. He was the manager of Those Damn Crows, which are kind of like one of the new sort of like breaking rock acts in the UK. But and more than anything like that, I mean, I do take the piss out of Roy endlessly for the band that he was in, way back in the 80s and 90s. But I can't knock the fact that they were signed by two major. He was signed by MCA and RCA. Those were major labels back then. Yeah. So he's just like a really fascinating character. He's a good friend. I've known him for like 25 years or something. I really like him, and because he owns a venue in Birmingham, it was really relevant to the students that I was teaching. Because, to be honest, most of them will go and visit that venue as soon as it opens up,
again,
and they've met the owner of it. So I've been doing this sort of thing with the students of like, it's a venue, it's an agent. I've had a promoter in as well, and it's kind of fascinating because we're all in the same boat. Roy's place is shut. They were just about to open up and do some gigs, socially distanced, and then we went into lockdown again. You got an agent that's like cancelled stuff, and it's on the fourth go round. I was really pleased though. She does look after Blondie, so I was angling for some free tickets to the Blondie and Garbage joint tour that they're doing in. I think it's December 2021.
Which reminds me. And it's a little bit of a tenuous link, but have you been watching the Robert and Toya videos?
I watched the Paranoid one yesterday. It's just insane. I have no idea what's going on.
That's one hell of a household, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely one. If you've not watched the Robert Fripp and Toya Wilcox videos, watch the Robert Fripp and Toya Wilcox videos. They are just something else.
Yeah.
Just absolutely something else. Let's start by saying to everybody who's listening, if you can help with unique content for that period, anything from 30 seconds up to 5 minutes, whatever it would be, then start thinking about it now, because we'd like to be able to fill the social media platforms for the weekend with unique content for people who would normally have been in that venue.
Yeah,
and there's lots of things we can do to keep it interesting, and we can potentially do, have a curry party. There's no reason why we can't have a curry party with some content that goes through it, and that's all entirely possible. We could all sit down for a curry at 8 o'clock.
Not the curry going through us.
No, but we could all sit down for a curry at a certain time, and so let's, and we could all post pictures of curry and all that kind of. I'm sure there's stuff we can do. So if you're listening, particularly if you are on the side of the fence that would have participated in the show as an exhibitor or been part of the actual event, thinking caps on, contact Jace, and we'll start working out what that's going to be, and we'll put together a special couple of days of stuff. And we'll leave it like that. And we might, and do you know what? We talked about a couple of podcasts. I think we can actually look to do more. I think we should start setting ourselves the challenge of 10 or 15-minute interviews and see if we can do, half a dozen over the weekend.
Well, we probably can, but we can't keep to doing 10 to 15-minute interviews. We're now nearly at an hour we've been on Zoom, and we said we were going to do 20 minutes this evening. Yeah,
but we'll just have to be disciplined. We'll just have to be disciplined. Yes, so update there. And get your thinking caps on, folks, and get in touch, because we are going to make that something special. I had to mention Finland to you.
Yeah, so our global reach continues.
Indeed.
See, it's not all bad. There are silver linings to every cloud.
Yeah.
So Rainier Freeland, I'm hoping I've said that right, got in touch via Facebook this week. Who said that Finland doesn't have carry-on films and has never had them. But they have bizarrely got on the buses. Which,
oh, right. Okay, so it's because I thought maybe that means that, phrases like, Aris don't translate. But if on the buses is there, then all the stuff must translate somehow.
Yeah, so I've charged him with the task of starting the Carry On to Finland Society.
Right. Which actually, while we're on Carry On films, our Canadian listener, yeah. So our Canadian listener, Craig Lawton, messaged me back. He says he still hasn't found Keith Scott, but his favourite Carry On film is Screaming or one of the Doctor's Nurse series. But he does appreciate Mark's shout out of Convenience. Yes.
It's a great one.
Yes. That's one of the things we could do. We could have a vote between now and then, and on one of the evenings, everybody has a watch party. We all sit down and we watch a Carry On film at the same time. So we get a poll going.
Are they available online? I don't know.
Bound to be. Just put.
Or do I do it as a webinar and illegally broadcast it on this Zoom link?
Well, there's hardly any of them still left alive, and the ones that are gaga, so I don't think anybody's coming after you. So maybe a Carry-On film on the evening, but we'd have to do a poll. We've got to have some kind of poll as to what the choices are going to be. We might have to narrow it down to 5 and then do some form of poll to work it out. Though I'd go with Convenience, to be honest. I'd happily watch Convenience.
I can't happily watch Convenience. Screaming.
Or Cowboy.
Cowboy.
We'll work it out.
Khyber.
Yeah. So he right. I'll go. Well, I'm pleased he's come back. I'm disappointed he doesn't know Keith Scott, but I'm pleased he's come back.
I know. It's really funny. It's got Craig Lawton, obviously, because he's left a message. He goes, me again. I still haven't found Keith Scott. I'll keep looking.
Yes, you do that. Thank you, Craig. Thanks for the update. Which reminds me, actually, if you want to contact all the socials are on the show notes, including my socials as well. So just drop us a line, either of us a line, if you want to tell us something or discuss anything or any kind of comment. Just feel free. and you can get in touch with us. We are not overwhelmed.
Well, I'm not overwhelmed. No. I've effectively got nothing to do for 12 months.
Exactly. So there we are. And to be fair, as it's been mentioned, dare I ask about Keith Scott?
Well, he hasn't responded to my Instagram message. It is. I wrote a list earlier.
But you had an email address of somebody you were going to...
I know. And so I thought I'd chase it up. So I have a list here, as you can see.
I've just seen the list.
I bought a new... actually, no, I didn't buy a new notepad. When lockdown first occurred, I took it as an opportunity to kind of revamp everything. And whilst you can't see this is actually a Guitar Show notebook that I had.
I can see that. That's
that I had made.
Yeah.
So I'd had a word with Paul, who does all of my artwork, when we went to lockdown, and because he wasn't really working either, we'd had a chat about the imagery that I wanted to use for 2021, and we went with my Firebird non-reverse. So we had the logo created and a little icon made and stuff, and on Facebook you can see the Firebird non-reverse in front of a Vox amp, which I don't own, but that's my Firebird. And so I had some new business cards made with the new logo on it. I had these notebooks that are only for myself, really, but it was quite nice to have the distinction between a uni notebook and my notebook sort of thing. To
be fair, I know they're just for yourself because you haven't sent me one.
I'm quite happy to send you one. But the point I was trying to get to was so I had all of this new stationery done, new compliment slips and blah 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 blah, because I thought that after the first lockdown we'd be back to normal, and I would have upped the professionalism of my little company by having all of this branded stuff that I could do. And I also got made some 9 to 42 mugs, of which you and I have.
Yes, I do, and it's fantastic.
Have one, and I've got 20 of them sat in my office. So I thought I might as well start giving them away because they've got 2021 branding on them. So we could come up with competitions. We could give away some mugs. I've got 3 boxes of Guitar Show t-shirts that need to go as well. A variety of black and white t-shirts in a variety of sizes and stuff. So rather than this sort of stuff just sit in a storeroom in my work place, might as well start using it. This year's a financial write-off anyway, so let's get this stuff out there and keep the Guitar Show stuff around for the people who come to the show and listen to this podcast.
Well, in which case then I can possibly do something here, because I've got a question we could ask now.
Mm-hmm.
And it means that you will have to have listened to at least 40 minutes of this drivel. So if you've made it this far through and you can answer this question, we could give 5 things away, for argument's sake, to the first 5 people who respond to you on Facebook with the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So the question is, and I'm going to revolve it around 3 bands that I went to see when I was in my university years, because I went through a bit of a kind of a UK sort of it was hard rock more than metal, really.
Than Joel McIver approved metal.
Than Joel McIver. But Joel wrote a biography of one of these bands. I'm going to give you the 3 bands, and you need to tell me which one Joel wrote the biography, or official biography, or biographer of. First 5 people will get a prize. We'll get a of Jason's choice. Literally, whatever, when he opens the box, whatever comes out first. And you might want to give us a t-shirt size, actually, if it's t-shirts involved. It might need a size, but we can do that. So 3 bands in question. Saw all 3 of them. One of them was a one-hit wonder, and first single which charted, which is what got me into them, was produced by Joe Elliott, Def Leppard. So that band is No Sweat. Did he write the biography of No Sweat? Did he write the biography of Thunder? Or did he write the biography of the Little Angels? There's your choices, folks. Okay? No Sweat, Thunder, Little Angels. Joel wrote a biography of one of those three. If you've got this far, if you know the answer, if you contact Jace on Facebook, first 5 people will get a guitar show related prize.
Excellent.
Perfect.
And a little known fact that as I work for BIM, that Bruce Dickinson, the other Bruce Dickinson of Little Angels, actually started BIM.
Yes, he did. He did. I met him at an event for the 50th birthday party of Anderton's Music Store. And he's a lovely fella. Really,
he is a lovely fella, yeah.
Really nice guy. Crazy guitar player. I thought he was a great guitarist. I thought Little Angels were a great band, actually. I was a huge Little Angels fan. But there we go.
So
anyway,
should we wrap it up as we've been on for an hour?
Should we wrap it up with the one thing that we were going to say, which is what we're a little bit confused about? And if people can answer this question, we'd be really, really grateful. More people have listened to the episode with Christoph Fantana. Sounds like Spanner. His podcast was split into 2 because he put us to shame. He absolutely banged on. And so we split his episode into 2, and yet more people have listened to episode 2 than have listened to episode 1.
Yeah. I'm confused.
So am I. I can only assume that we've got a listener who's just had a very, very extreme case of dementia onset and not realised they'd listened to it already and has listened to it 3 or 4 times on the bounce. What are the stat differences, actually?
It's only like 4 listeners difference.
Right. If you can answer the question, there's no prize involved for this one. In fact, tell you what, if you've listened to episode 2 but not episode 1 and you can prove it to us, we'll give you a prize.
Yeah,
provided you explain why. Provided you explain why. Because we don't understand. And it's driving both of our OCD a little bit bonkers. Jace, what a pleasant way to spend an evening. I wasn't expecting to be shooting the breeze just with you.
When you said, Joel, and I messaged you and said Joel can't do it, and you were like, we'll just do it anyway. I was like, okay.
Well, the thing is, we know at some point, I mean, we look at the stats and we need a really low bar, don't we? So this is the attempt to be by far the lowest downloaded and listened to one of the episodes.
That'll be like one of my gigs.
It's going to be, yeah, it is, yeah. So, who did an album called Playing to a Room of One?
Well, I've no idea.
It's going to be that one, isn't it?
I've played to less than that.
Have you?
Only because the promoter insisted that we went on, and I was like, "There's no one here."
I think I've ended to less than that. I've always started with at least one warm body.
Oh, I did this gig once with I made the mistake of saying to the promoter. He said, "What type of music are you?" And I was like, "Oh, we're like a punky rock and roll band," which is what I meant, more like the New York Dolls than more like a hardcore punk band.
Right.
And so he put us on, and we were headlining, and by the time the hardcore punk band supporting us had finished their set, they'd managed to clear the room.
It's my favourite line from Spinal Tap, isn't it?
Which one?
Where they meet the young lad in the hotel lobby who's playing the enormous arena on the edge of town. And they're talking about him because he opened for them, and then they say he opened for us. He had this much talent.
This much talent, yeah.
They were still booing him while we were on stage. It's my favourite line in Spinal Tap. They were still booing him while we were on stage. Love that.
Yeah, I think my favourite is that puts it in perspective. It's just too much perspective.
There's some great lines in Spinal Tap, aren't there?
I showed it to some students a couple of years ago. Spinal Tap, I'm giving them mine now at 18, and Spinal Tap came out 30 years ago. They thought it was real. Then you realise how old you are and how different the generation gap is.
It's when he gets out of that pod. Right, what's his face gets out of the pod. Derek Smalls. Gets out of the pod right at the end.
Yeah.
Gets his arm trapped. All the band have got back in. Looks out and just puts his hand up in the air. It's just... It's a marvellous film. Do you know what? Watch Spinal Tap. If you haven't watched it for a while, watch Spinal Tap. It's an absolute... It is one of the genius movies.
Yes.
That is worth every single rewatch. But yeah, right. All right, mate. Well, listen, great to see you.
And you.
And actually, just as a point of order, if we do get to speak to Joel next week, are we going to shove that out a week later? Or we'll get it out as fast as.
As fast as, but it depends on if he has actually got COVID or not. But I mean, when he did look pretty ill when he sent me that little video of him in bed. So we'll play it by ear.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. Right, well, you'll get Joel as fast as we get Joel. You'll get Joel, and assuming he's still talking to us if he listens to this. And other than that, we'll see you very soon. Christmas cards, folks. Get your Christmas cards. Start writing. Feel good. Feel good. Spread some love.
All right, mate. So it's goodbye from me.
And it really is.
See ya.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.